So there's been more disruption announced for parents next week as up to 50,000 teachers strike in a dispute over pay. Labor Minister Michael Wood and National MP Erica Stanford join us. Thanks very much for being in.
Morning.
Education spokesperson too, of course, for National. So Erica, what would National commit to with teachers' wages? Commit to keeping pace with inflation?
Well, look, the issue that we've got, of course, is that we're in a cost of living crisis, right? And everyone is feeling the pinch really, really badly. And teachers are no different than anyone else. I mean, part of the problem that this government has got is that they've let inflation get completely out of control. And we've been saying for a really long time, one of the key things we need to do is get inflation under control, which is why we put out our 5-point plan. But the other issue, of course, that you've got is that the minimum wage now is so close to a starting teacher rate. I think the difference per hour is $1.36, which is about $3,000 a year. So, of course, teachers are feeling extremely aggrieved because of that difference, and I've got some sympathy for them. But the issue that we've got, of course, is that more disruption to our kids, another day off after, as I think we were talking about earlier today. You know, so many days we've had COVID, we've had floods. The unions took their stop work meetings during school time as well. We've got teacher only days. I mean, it has been a year of huge disruptions. And you remember Jan Tanetti, every day counts. Every day counts. But clearly, what she's overseeing at the moment is a situation where, you know, we've got teachers having to take a day to strike without pay that they can't afford to do, and many of them don't want to do, and kids having another day off school.
And so there's clearly sympathy you have for the teachers, but there was nothing there to say that actually you would improve teachers' pay conditions either.
One of the things I'm focused on is taking a look at the waste in the back end. If you look at the Ministry of Education, this government has spent an extra $5 billion. The number of ministry officials earning over $100,000 has tripled. They're spending an extra $200 million in wages over and above what they were. So there's a lot of backroom waste. They should be focusing on how to get that to the front end to meet the need.
Michael, Erica makes a good point about the minimum wage comparison, because I think we've spoken before about how actually teachers and their take-home pay can end up with less than people on a minimum wage because they've got their student loan to pay for. You have said that Labor is the party that invests in decent pay for all workers, but does that exclude teachers?
Well, you don't help teachers by punching down at minimum wage workers and making things worse for the people on the lowest pay in New Zealand, and that's certainly not the approach we'll take. We want to support everyone to have decent pay. Well, look, we'll keep working with the teachers through this negotiation process and keep talking to them. We want to have those negotiations carry on and avert a strike, and we urge both parties, the ministry and the teacher unions, to work really constructively on that. Look, our record is really clear on this. We have increased teacher pay between 20% and 40%, depending on where they are on the scale and the time that we've been in office. That's more than was increased under the 9 years under National. So we do invest in the public sector. You don't improve things for teachers either by removing some of the important supports for them. So some of the increased investment in the Ministry of Education, for example, is in the learning support area, which is one of the main priorities of teachers to help them do their jobs well. You've got to fund the whole sector properly. That's what we're committed to, and we'll keep negotiating on this one.
Okay, I want to move on to another issue that is facing parents, not just the fact that they'll have to find some childcare next week, but school buses. We spoke with Alexia Welsh, and I believe that this is a problem that's not limited to Auckland. But is it crazy, Minister, that our public transport service is actually forcing parents into their cars to take kids to school?
Well, we need those school buses to be operating and giving people that choice for their kids to take the bus to school. There has been an ongoing issue with a shortage of drivers, which has really stemmed from the fact that over many years there's been systemically poor pay and condition for bus drivers. So we've been getting on with the job of fixing that. We've invested, as of last year, about $90 million to bring those pay and conditions up and keep people driving, both our public buses and our school buses. We're now beginning to see those numbers improve, but we've got to make sure that the contractors who deliver these services work hard to get them up and running again.
Erica?
The reason that you had that mother on today, and the reason that I'm having to hold a public meeting, is because I've got kids in my electorate who are being left on the side of the road by public and school buses who are crying because their bus has not picked them up or not turned up, and then parents are getting calls from distressed children. It is completely out of control. So many people are upset about this. But what I would say is to Michael Wood, is he's the Minister of Immigration. If we'd had better immigration settings last year, we wouldn't be in this situation. And here's the kicker, and this is why it's so important to get these settings right. Finally, after it was decided that it was a crisis. In December last year, Michael changed the settings a little bit around immigration, allowing pathways to residence for bus drivers. We had 90 bus drivers between July and December apply to come to New Zealand. As soon as he changed the setting, it was 600. Great. Too late. I've got kids on the side of the road who are crying because their bus didn't pick them up. We were telling him for months and months and months, get the immigration settings right and this won't be a problem. But he didn't listen. Too late. And now I've got kids who don't get picked up.
Well, what we are having with immigration is $500,000 spent on ads placed in social media overseas to try and get health workers in. That is just the amount that's been spent on placement. As Immigration Minister, do you know how much was actually spent on consultants and the video production?
Oh, look, I don't have a breakdown of that particular, those particular details for this piece of work.
Would that be something that would be important to know, especially in an environment where consultants and spending is really under the microscope right now?
Oh, look, I'm sure that information could be brought forth. I guess the key point here...
But you don't have it?
I don't have that to hand at the moment. The key point here is that there is a job to be done in terms of attracting people in health to work in New Zealand. This was a campaign that was stood up, I think, in November of last year, peaked in about January of this year. The numbers at this stage are not high and they need to be higher to justify that sort of expenditure. But
yeah,
we expect
3 interviews.
But Melissa, we expect that to be the case. For example, through this program, they encourage people who want to come to New Zealand to sort out their professional registration before they move to the next stage of it. And it generally takes some months to do that. So 3 at this stage is not high enough. That needs to be higher. But we expect it to build as people engage in the program more.
Just to return to the teachers quickly, because we've had some feedback this morning that in 1976, so granted a wee while ago, teachers were paid about $12,370. A backbench MP was paid around $14,000 in salary and allowance. Now the difference between an experienced secondary teacher is a salary of about $90,000, while the lowest paid and inexperienced backbench MPs get $163,000. That's a huge difference. Is it fair that politicians' salaries have surged ahead so much more than teachers' salaries seem to have?
I think that across our whole system, some of those sort of relativities did get a bit out of whack over time. So, yeah, politicians are often the easy target there, and fair enough for bringing it up. But, for example, we've had massive escalation for those on CEO salaries compared to people doing important work. We've done various things to effectively freeze MP pay over the last 5 years that we've been in government, because we do think things need to get back into balance a bit. And as I say, we've increased teacher pay between 20 and 40%. So we are working on trying to bring that fairness back into the system.
CEOs aren't doing important work as well?
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that I think over the last few decades, you've seen CEOs' salaries skyrocket above people doing really important work in our society. And things do need to get a bit more balance. It's that whole picture. That's why minimum wage increases are important. That's the people doing the cleaning, working at the checkouts. They need fair pay as well, as do teachers and other people.
Erica, is that difference fair between a politician's increase in wage and a teacher's?
Oh, there's no doubt that we need to value our teachers more, and they are feeling extremely undervalued and overworked and tired and burned out, which is why we're seeing so many of them exit the profession. There are a lot of things we can do, and it's not just about pay, but it's about conditions as well. I spend a lot of time in classrooms.
What about relative to politicians' pay?
Well, there are a number of politicians who potentially don't deserve that rate of pay.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
What a nasty little comment.
Oh, I was smiling. Come on,
Erica. But we were friends.
What are you?
Thought we were friends.
What are you doing next week, next Thursday? Childcare plans in place? Strike day?
We'll be stuck down in Parliament probably.
We will be. It'll be our partners that have
on
to deal with
Thursday
it.
next week. So there'll be a conversation over the weekend, I'm sure, there. But as I say, the work that needs to go on between now and then is to get the parties back to the table to try and sort things out.
Okay, thank you both. I hope the backroom discussion isn't too awkward after the pay comment. Labour Minister Michael Wood and National MP Erica Stanford, who are genuinely good friends, I think. Right now, time for the news.